Good evening, this is Hassan Khan and you're listening to Tactical Talk Radio. Today we'll be discussing China's Belt and Road Initiative, which aims to transform the socio-economic dynamics of not only Asia but the world at large. We have with us today Sabena Siddiqi, an expert on Chinese strategic and geopolitical affairs, who regularly contributes op-eds for various international papers and think tanks. She joins us now from Karachi. Welcome to the show, Sabena.
Thank you, Hassan. Thank you for having me on the show.
Sabena, being a 21st century regional connectivity project, the Belt and Road Initiative could transform the way people interact in terms of globalization. However, what obstacles could it potentially face given how certain powers such as India and the United States are countering hard to control the Asian sphere of influence?
Well, actually, India just cannot continue to maintain a distance for long because the whole region is going through an economic flurry of activity. And even today, like the Belt and Road is not what it was like 3 years ago. It reflects a broader international consensus now because even the UN General Assembly and UN Security Council have welcomed and endorsed the project. So I think it's unlikely that India can continue to monopolize the Asian sphere of influence, as you say. There are virtually very few countries in Asia that want to stay out of the Belt and Road today. Like even Japan, a diehard US ally, wants to join the project now. So the question is, how long will India manage to stay away from the buzz of economic activity? Even the US has endorsed the Belt and Road Initiative by attending the forum in Beijing recently, and a trade deal was clinched. So I see India's influence decreasing, and to a neutral observer like me, it does not look sensible of India to isolate itself from whatever this moment in history, you could say. It is a typical case of sour grapes, as it is foregoing the opportunity just because it feels Pakistan has an unfair advantage due to its geostrategic location. So clinging on to the stance about the CPAC is just not going to go in its favor. It may be politically useful right now, but it cannot stop the project or even improve India's prospects for getting any territory. So I don't see any real impediments in the future.
But what about the US? I mean, you're saying that it attended the BRI initiative.
Oh yes, yeah. Like they sent a delegation from the White House to attend the forum, and they had a very good trade deal before that. I see that China is going to be investing in U.S. companies in the U.S. In the future, and probably, I mean, this is the way Trump is going to provide jobs for the Americans, which he really wants to do. So it's a win-win situation where the US and China is concerned. I don't really see it, apart from the political things going on, I don't see that in the future there will be any real, if the Belt and Road is successful, the US and India cannot stay away.
But there are concerns among certain political and defense quarters in the region that the BRI is akin to hegemonic designs for achieving economic monopolization. Moreover, it's even called the modern East India Company when specifically talking about the China-Pakistan economic corridor. How valid are the overall concerns?
Well, historically, China never invaded any country or had any imperial designs. So, I mean, the reason that just because it's doing trade over here does not make us a colony. There's no need to be concerned about, like some people say, that there's a trade deficit. So I just looked up the stats, and the stats tell me that if Pakistan's current trade deficit with China is 6.2, India's trade deficit with China stands at 47 billion. Similarly, the US trade deficit with China is 347 billion. So if India or the United States have not become colonies or provinces of China because of trade deficit, it is not realistic to refer to Pakistan as a colony. China happens to have a business monopoly almost everywhere in the world right now. And in fact, some news that came to my attention. China is even one of the biggest investors in real estate in the UK, in Malaysia, in Australia, and the US is one of its most popular places where it has a lot of overseas investment. So Chinese buyers are actually snapping up property everywhere over the world, and just because it's investing in Pakistan doesn't make us a colony. In fact, most countries in the world welcome Chinese investment.
The Middle East is increasingly becoming volatile, as witnessed recently with the diplomatic crisis in Qatar. Do you believe that such incidents could gravely impact BRI's objectives, given how the US is allegedly behind the chaos and that most Arab states are unwilling to befriend Iran, a key player in the region?
Well, Qatar situation could upset the apple cart, really. There's a lot of Chinese trade, investment, and a lot of infrastructure it was building over there. And trade will be disrupted in case of war. I don't really think there will be a war in that region, but if Qatar does come under some kind of attack, Iran is going to get involved, probably Pakistan is going to get involved. I mean, it could upset the progress of the Belt and Road by involving some of the key countries of the region. So, but one cannot say that Qatar is really. I mean, the situation is not that bad as yet. It could be solved with mediation, but China has huge investments there, and it has, like, even Qatar has got a big. I mean, it's a stakeholder in a lot of. I mean, the Commercial Bank of China, and it's got holdings everywhere. And I mean, they have a lot of business between them.
Mhm.
And it is China's second largest supplier of gas as well after Australia. So China is going to get impacted by all this situation, and I really hope that Qatar can be solved as soon as possible.
My final question is that for 7 decades, the world's economic structure has evolved around the Bretton Woods system. Would that change anytime soon with the rise of Asia, especially when Shanghai Cooperation Organization and Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank are evolving rapidly?
Well, Bretton Woods institutions like the World Bank and the IMF are going to get gradually redundant if the Shanghai Cooperation Organization also decides to operate without the US dollar. As it is at the Belt and Road Forum in Beijing, it was announced that all Belt and Road countries would be doing trade in their local currencies and not the dollar. And now with the SCO, the SCO rather, and India and Pakistan just became full members today. Now the SCO, it impacts 40% of the world's population, nearly half of the world's population, really. So China can, or I mean, if it wants to change over from the dollar for SCO countries, then it's going to be, a huge setback for the US dollar. And I read up on this thing, and I was surprised to see that all the alternate economic platforms are already there in case you want to switch over from the dollar. For example, if the West has the US Federal Reserve, the East has the People's Bank of China. If there is an International Monetary Fund, there is the AIIB, like you say. And if there is the World Bank, there's a BRICS Bank already. Then if the West has Standard & Poor's, Moody's, the East has Dagong and Accra. If the West has MasterCard and Visa, the East has Union Pay already and JCB credit cards. So in a way, you can say the entire Belt and Road machinery is already there in place, waiting for whenever they want to switch over. So it does look probable like that is the future strategy. But right now, I mean, having a sudden setting aside the dollar suddenly would cause chaos. So I think it's going to be very, very gradual over the decades. Not that soon. But already One Belt and this Belt and Road infrastructure and trade are being priced in local currency, the yuan, and even in gold. So in the future, I would say anything is possible.
Thank you so much, Sabena, for joining us on Tactical Talk Radio and providing your insight on these complex issues.
Oh, you're most welcome, Hassan. Thank you. Okay.
This was Sabena Siddiqi discussing BRI's aims and regional dynamics. Until the next episode, good night.